on to do our cucumbers. And the reason I want to get my cucumber salad done now, because the longer it sits, the more flavor it's going to pick up. Everyone in this room has made cucumber salad at some point in time, right? Just about, pretty much. The only downside to cucumber salad is it tends to have a lot of sugar in it, okay? So with this particular recipe, we left the sugar out and we went with a little bit of honey. Still a sweetener, I know, but it is slightly better for you than using raw sugar. And it's not going to be a sweet product, it's just going to kind of be in between. We're going to take our cucumbers, chop your ends off. Now, only you will know when you're going to consume this, and that will determine how thick you want your cucumbers to be cut, okay? The sooner you're going to eat it, the thinner you need to cut them. If you're going to make it today and wait and have it tomorrow afternoon, you're going to make it and have it the next day, you'd want to go a little bit thicker. I always peel my cucumbers. And to peel them, the easiest way to do it is start about halfway down, run your peeler through, back across the edge, and then just spin it around and go again. And try to get as much of the dark green off as you can. A little bit of the light green on it won't hurt. The dark green tends to be a little bit tough, and it'll help keep some of your liquid from absorbing into your cucumber. And as long as the dark green is off, that's all we really have to worry about. And I actually like this peeler for a change. They're downstairs. They're $1. I've had tons and tons and tons of peelers, and that one, surprisingly, just worked very well. How many people have had a peeler at home where you get about 3 stripes into it and you want to fling it across the room and grab a knife? Yeah. That's about normally what happens to me. Okay. Like I said, with slicing this, you want to try and keep them relatively thin. We're going to cook this, or we want the vinegar to actually absorb into it quickly. We're going to have it here in about a half hour. If you're going to have it tomorrow, you might want to go a little bit thicker, okay? Because this is a vinegar-based sauce that this is going to go into, it will break this down very quickly. As thin as this is, in about 4 hours, they're going to start turning mushy and they'll start to actually break apart and dissolve, okay? We are going to consume this right away, so we can go thin with them. It's a nice way to be able to do something fresh and as you're waiting or while you're working. However, if you're going to do it early in the morning and have it later on that day, it's perfectly fine to go thicker with them and actually work. I'm not going to cut myself. Just takes practice. And you can see they're all really pretty thin. They yell at me downstairs when I do it too, don't worry. We'll slice this last one down. Again, if you go a little bit thicker because you're not comfortable with it, that's fine. Does anyone in the room have a mandolin? Has anyone ever heard of one? Okay. A mandolin is a slicing device. It is plastic or metal. You can get them at any Bed Bath & Beyond, kitchen supply company, Sam's Club, anybody who carries more restaurant equipment. And what it is it's a long tray, and it's got a series of blades in it. And you can adjust the blade thicker or thinner, and then basically you just run the cucumber down it, or any product that you have, and it'll slice it. They make waffle cut fries, they have grater attachments, they have French fry attachments. You can basically cut anything you can imagine with them. It's something that's a little safer if you're not quite comfortable with using a knife so close to your fingers that you can use. And they have a lot of uses for them. It's not that hard, I promise. When you cut and cook, as long as I have for a living, unfortunately, you get comfortable with it. All right, that didn't take us very long to get all our cucumbers cut. Now we're going to do the same with our red onion. However, when you cut a red onion in half, you end up with a pretty big half. Right? So the one thing I'm going to recommend, if you have a normal size red onion, Split it in half again so that when you slice it down and you get bites, you're only getting thin strips instead of that whole long chunk. Again, you want to, I don't know if you can see or not, keep your knife at an angle, and you basically want to follow the shape of the onion, okay, up until you get to about the back point, and then we'll lay it down and go again. Keep your knife on the side, and basically you just want to slice it relatively as thin as you can. This will not break down as fast as your cucumber will, okay? You're basically looking for matchsticks, okay, because you don't want it to be too strong. You want something that you can eat and enjoy and not eat and, oh my goodness, what did I just eat a mouthful of onion for, okay? You want it to be there but not be overly powerful. If you get to that little end and it's hard to cut, just split it apart and break them down again. Same thing with this one. And gloves actually make this much harder, I promise. Okay, we got all that in there. Now, fresh dill. I know it's hard to find fresh herbs. It's the winter time and everyone thinks I'm crazy. However, we do run a grocery store and we do carry them downstairs. They're available all the time. They come in large packs and small packs. They are Full Circle Organic, which is a Food City brand. You basically need to strip them down of their hard stems. They still have a little bit of a stem in the center of them. That's not going to hurt anything. It won't make it sour or bitter or change the flavor at all. And you basically peel it up from the bottom to the top. And as that stuff pulls off, where it breaks, is a pretty good indicator of what stems you want and what stems you don't. The thicker stems are harder to break. They don't quite give as much, so you can tug on them a little harder and they're not going to break. If you can tug on it and it doesn't break right away, move up a little further and go with a slightly softer piece. With your dill, because it doesn't have leaves like basil, you basically want to roll it down as tight as you can into a little tiny ball and squeeze it to the best of your abilities, and then gently go across your fingers with it. And then take whatever you have left and redo it. Bunch it up against the back of your knife if you have to. You can get that chopped relatively easily. Now, if you can't find fresh dill, can you use dried dill? By all means. However, dry herbs are not quite as strong or as intense as fresh herbs are, so you may need to increase the amount that's going in there. If you don't like dill at all and you want to put a different herb in there, by all means. You know what you like, you know what flavors you have or you're used to, things like that. Now with this, if we try and mix all our stuff in this bowl, it's going to be very difficult because honey doesn't mix very well when you're doing cucumbers. So in a separate bowl, we are going to add a half a cup of water, rice vinegar, right? It's just a different, I don't want to say slightly sweeter vinegar, but it has a slightly different flavor. We're going to do about a half a cup as well. And this will be the only ingredient only dish we do this evening that has salt in it. And the only reason I use a little bit of salt in it is because it helps pull a little bit of the moisture out of the cucumbers and helps a little bit of the flavor go back into them. Now with our honey, everyone knows I love to measure. You can see on the bottom it's about a tablespoon. And then our salt and pepper, naturally more pepper than salt. And for this we can use black pepper. For our next one we're going to use white pepper just so it doesn't distort it quite so much. We'll start with about a teaspoon and about a half a teaspoon of salt. And the only thing you're really trying to do here is to dissolve your salt a little bit and to break that honey up. Again, if you try to put that in there with your cucumbers, you'll never get that honey to dissolve. And you'll end up with just one really, really sweet spot. Once it's dissolved, we're just going to pour it over it. Get that last little bit out of there. And then you just want to gently mix it all together. And then let it sit. Now you can see there's not quite enough liquid to completely cover that. We're going to put this in the refrigerator, but before I do, I hope you can see this on camera. I made the exact same recipe a little while ago, okay? And you can see there's much more liquid in this. And what that is that's the vinegar breaking down the cucumbers a little bit, and it's the salt that's in there helping pull a little bit of that moisture out of those cucumbers.